My goal for the whole week was to write 10,000. And in chapter 11 and 12, my characters take a trip to Jackson's homeworld. Welcome back to the Anarchist Writing Vlogs. It is week 4 and I am still working on the second book in my space opera trilogy that I call Elysium Rising. The previous 2 weeks I spent working on finishing Act 1 and doing some more world building. And the focus of week 3 is going to be writing as many words as I possibly can, but I do have a hard number goal that I want to try and reach by Sunday. And that word count goal is 10,000 words. Yep, I'm trying to write 10,000 words across 7 days. So starting from Sunday to Saturday. Gonna try and write 10,000 words in 7 days and hopefully get the ball rolling on Act 2, which I'm really close to. And yeah, I'm hoping I can at least get close. 10,000 words is a lot, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for me. And I think if I just write every single day, I should get around or very close to that number. Before we get into the rest of the vlog, I want you guys to let me know what project you're working on this week and what your goals are for the rest of the week. Now, let's get into my first writing session of the week.
It's that time of the year where I start getting old. There's traditions I try just to see what'll hold. Have my heart on the line, airing out with my clothes. It's so easy to try, but it's harder to fall. Darling, don't you give up on a Monday. I wanna tell you I want you. You'll probably take it the wrong way. God, I'm losing my grip on the runway. I wanna get there with you now. Next time I'll take you the long way. It's that time of the year where there's smoke in my breath. I can cover it up with a joint and a mess. If I zip up my coat, all the feathers will leave. There's a hole in the down and a trick up my...
Alright, today is Wednesday, July 9th. And so far for Monday and Tuesday, I have written almost 4,000 words. I've written 3,909 words. So that's almost 4,000 for the first 2 days. Today's Wednesday. Not sure if I'm going to be able to write today, but I did want to recap what I did for those first 2 days of the week. So I finished the entirety of chapter 11 and most of chapter 12. I have about one scene left until I'm done with chapter 12, and that'll be the end of this mini arc that my characters are on. And then from there, they'll finally move on to the Far Reaches, where we get into the next major plot point in the story. And despite chapter 11 and chapter 12 being quote-unquote slower chapters, I'm actually really impressed with what I was able to come up with, because I think I mentioned this before, but when my story takes like a dip in energy after like a high-paced scene, so maybe there was like a fight scene in one chapter and then I like slow the pace down a little bit and then it picks back up. This is kind of one of those dips in the pacing, I guess, where we spend a little bit more time getting to know the characters. We get to spend more time knowing Iggy, Jackson, and Noya. And in chapter 11 and 12, my characters take a trip to Jackson's homeworld of Junzar, which is right on the edge of the Far Reaches. It's like right in between the Exara systems and the Far Reaches, so it's not really controlled by a single group. It's kind of like a backwater, underdeveloped planet. There's not a lot of technology on the planet, and that's where Jackson grew up. and he desperately did not want to stop on this planet. That's like his main struggle in the beginning of chapter 12. Jackson really did not want to stop on Junzar, but at the beginning of that chapter, Iggy and Jackson realize there's an issue with the ship and they cannot complete the trip to the far reaches if they don't stop and fix it. And the only planet close enough that had what they needed to fix the ship was unfortunately Junzar. And despite these books all being told from Iggy's point of view, I feel like I do get to unravel and unfold a lot of the other characters' backstories and motivations and just how they are as a character through his eyes. And this chapter was really diving into who Jackson was, because up until this point we really don't know much about him, and that's because Iggy doesn't know much about Jackson, and that is on purpose. While Jackson, and that is on purpose. My two like secondary characters, Jackson and Noya, they're both very guarded, but in like different ways. Noya is more stoic because of her high priestess training and just her culture in general. She's not very forthcoming with her emotions because she doesn't really experience them the same way other people do. So a lot of what Iggy learns about her is through what he can pry out of her, but it's really hard to read her at first glance. And with Jackson, kind of wears a mask of humor and snarkiness, I guess, to mask his true feelings and intentions. And it's really hard to understand what he's thinking through his words and actions, because a lot of the time he's being misleading on purpose. So Iggy has to pay more attention to his actions and reactions to things rather than trying to decipher his emotions and stuff, because that's not always reliable. So it's been really cool balancing those different personalities in the group and how they bounce off each other. And it's also been really fun exploring their characters through the eyes of Iggy, because I write exclusively in third person limited and I'm not really good at first person. I also don't really enjoy reading first person as well. So third person limited is really like my jam. That's my preferred point of view, and I feel like I've got a decent mastery over it at this point. And I like having readers experience other characters through my main character's eyes, because it leaves room for interpretation. Like my point of view character might miss something that the reader might pick up, and I just like having that kind of, I don't know what I'm saying here, but I like having the reader experience the other characters through the main character and seeing what things they can find out that I'm not explicitly saying on the page. But yeah, that's where I'm at in the story. Just wanted to check in and give you guys a quick update before I get to work on the end of chapter 12 and hopefully the beginning of chapter 13. Chapter 12 is going to pick up the pace again, because I would say from here on out, the book is probably not going to have many more slow moments from here. Once the gang heads towards the far reaches, that's pretty much it. Everything just goes up and up until it comes crashing down. And I'm really excited to get to those future chapters. I think that's all I have to say. I'll see you guys on Friday. Today is Saturday, July 12th, and yesterday I almost wrote 2,000 words. I wrote 1,827 words, and that brings my weekly word count to around 7,000. And I have one day left to write 3,000 words. I most likely won't complete this by Saturday because I only have it's 9 o'clock now. I have to leave my house to go get my haircut at 10:30, and then I'm going to be seeing Superman and hanging out with a friend for pretty much the rest of the day. So I've got between 9 and 10:30 to write as much words as possible. I'm not going to really be aiming for 10K. I'm actually going to be aiming to just finish the first scene of chapter 13 because yesterday's writing session was spent fleshing out the last scene of chapter 12 a little bit more. I came up with an idea that I already had this idea, but I kind of just expanded it more in the chapter, and It's a dream sequence. I think it's one of the first that I've done in this series. I kind of do dream sequences a lot in my other books, but this is the first time I think one has popped up in this series. And it's a very important scene for Iggy's B plot, which I feel like hasn't been touched on in a couple of chapters. So I felt like it was a good time to, bring that back and remind the readers that Iggy does have a separate thing going on aside from the main plot. And that's what happened in this dream sequence. And I really enjoyed how this scene ended up turning out. And then right after that scene, it's not even a different scene. It's like right after he gets woken up from the dream, him and his friends get attacked by the hunter who's been chasing them down, and they have to flee Junzar. And that's like the end of the scene. And the original way I wrote it did not really have them interact much with the hunter. It was just like they wake up and they leave, and I was like, that's a little bit too abrupt. I need a little bit more panic. I need a little bit more action here. Even if they're not fighting him, I need a little bit more, I need the readers to feel like something could actually happen to the characters here. So I kind of stretched out that ending part of the scene, and I feel like it's a lot stronger now than it was the first time I wrote it. So today I'm officially going to be writing chapter 13. We are off Junzar. The characters are continuing their journey to the far reaches, and by the end of chapter 13 they will be meeting Shiv on Bazaar. And I'm really excited to get to those scenes because this is really when the book starts to kick into high gear. I know I've mentioned that before, but you got to get through the slower chapters because in my opinion, they are needed for pacing reasons and, for fleshing out other parts of your story aside from just the regular plot. And I have enjoyed getting to know these characters, but I want to get to some of the action stuff too because that's like some of my favorite things to do when writing. But yeah, I'm going to try and write as many words as possible, and hopefully I can get somewhere near 10,000 by the end of today. My goal for the whole week was to write 10,000. I didn't write for 2 out of the 7 days. So if I had written every day, I might have been able to hit 10,000 before even today. But, you do what you can. And I wasn't able to write those 2 days, but I do really enjoyed what I was able to write throughout this week. I'm almost at 40,000 words, 20,000 away from being done with Act 2. And then we'll get into Act 3, and before you know it, the book will be over. So I think I'm on good pace to finishing this by the end of August. Hopefully you guys and your goals are going great as well, and I'll see you guys on Sunday. Okay, it is Sunday, July 13th. It is the end of the week. Yesterday on Saturday, I was only able to write about 839 words, I think, is what my final word count for that one sprint I was able to do. I wasn't able to do any more than that because, as I said in the last clip, I went and got my haircut and then I went and saw Superman. Great movie, by the way. Superman was a lot better than I was expecting. And yeah, I suggest you guys all go see it if you're into superhero movies and just good movies in general. But yeah, I wasn't able to do any more writing than what I was able to do Saturday morning. And with that being said, my final word count for the week was 8,225. That's including last Sunday, not counting today because I haven't done any writing today and it would be more than 7 days if I counted today. So we're just counting last Sunday all the way to Saturday, and I've written 8,225 words. So not exactly 10,000, but I'm about almost 2,000 away. I missed 2 days. So if I had just written for maybe even one of those days, or if I had written just 1,000 words on both of those days I missed, I would have reached my goal. So this is basically just telling me that if I can discipline myself to write every day, I could probably average 10,000 words a week. So that's really encouraging. And while I didn't meet my goal, I am pretty proud of the progress that I'm making with my story. I'm enjoying the beginning of chapter 13. I finished the first scene actually in my writing session yesterday. So scene 2 is officially going to be my characters arriving on Bazaar and looking for Shiv so that they can get the information that they are looking for. And I'm really excited because this is the beginning of Act 2. We're moving on in the story. We're getting further and further. We're in the fun and games section, and I'm really enjoying where things are right now. I'm not quite sure what the focus of next week's vlog is going to be. If you guys have any suggestions or any challenges you guys want to see me do for next week, definitely leave some ideas down in the comments and I will definitely consider them. Let me know if you guys met your goal for this week down in the comments and what your goal is for next week. And last but not least, I want to leave you guys with one final question, as I kind of like asking you guys a question at the end of the video because it lets me know who watched all the way to the end, and I just like hearing you guys' thoughts on different things. And the question is, I don't have this one pre-written, I'm just going to come up with like off the dome, but my question is going to be, what is your favorite part about the drafting phase? So like, what's your favorite part about writing your first draft? Is it coming up with the world, the characters, the settings, you know, the different plot points, coming up with themes? Like, what is your favorite part about the drafting process? And for me, I do think it is actually coming up with the story organically and watching it unfold on its own and just seeing how the story writes itself in a way. Because at least for me, the first draft, the book is kind of writing itself. Like, of course, I'm the one typing down the words, but like things are growing organically, plot points are happening, twists that I didn't come up with originally are happening, and they could just kind of work, at least in this part of the, you know, writing phase. Of course, things change when you get to revisions and you figure out what works and what doesn't work, but I really do enjoy this part of the drafting process when things are kind of just unfolding out in front of you and you can see the story grow as you're writing it. I would definitely like to hear what your favorite part of the drafting phase is. That's going to be the end of this week's vlog. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and definitely leave a comment down below, as it definitely helps push my video out to more writers like you who need some extra motivation or encouragement, or just wants to see how different writers approach writing their novels. I am planning on building out my streaming schedule soon. I did post a poll up on my page asking on different times and dates, asking different days and times that you guys might be available to jump in a stream. So far, it looks like Friday afternoons or Friday evenings is winning, so that may be the day that I stream. But if I have any free time on any of the other days that are doing well in the poll, I may go live on those days. But so far, it seems like Friday is the day that most people are available for a stream, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Make sure you guys have my post notifications on and are following me on either Discord or Instagram or even here on YouTube, just so you know when I go live. I've been LDJ, and I'll see you guys in week 4. Peace.